Good evening and a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Manuel D'Souza, only on display, but I'm also known as Manuel across. Tell us your name and which part of the world you've signed in from. And as we see that coming through, we'll start welcoming you all. Hi, Abhi. Hello, Shalini. Welcome. Hello, Mary. Greetings from Mumbai to all the way to Maldives. Thank you so much for joining. So keep updating your names and we'll get to know where exactly you're from. So Baninder Singh from Delhi, welcome. Satish, welcome, my friend. So while we have all of you all out here, and especially for people who are new to PSAI, maybe I'll just give a little gist about PSAI overall. So the Professional Speakers Association of India has formed to help build a strong community to help speakers enhance their professional speaking career globally. PSAI is proud to be a part of the Global Speakers Federation, an organization of 17 national speaking associations around the globe. In India, PSAI is mostly in most cities like Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Delhi, Hyderabad, Vadodara. We also started on with a virtual chapter as well. Now, just to give you a gist about the PSAI Talk Show Global, this live initiative event is dedicated to raise awareness about a high impacting speaking topic while you give your deeper insights into PSAI's vision, value, and the benefits of being a part of our speaking fraternity. So, warm welcome to everyone to today's global talk show. Hi, Vibhuti. So great. So while people are all signing in, please keep the chat mode going on. Our guest speaker honestly needs no introduction. Her name alone stands out. Joining us today is Neerja Singh, popularly known as the official Seenager, senior teenager, the generation diversity speaker. Here is a video clip which I'd like to share across with you all.
Gen Alpha is slated to be the largest generation ever. 90% of them are born into the screen, literally. They come to the outcome and do reverse engineering from there. This generation is going to lead augmented reality professions, those jobs. They're going to lead AI, of course, and they're going to be at the front of sustainability ventures. They are to social impact, climate courage. These are their values. Today we are afraid of the young. We are afraid of upsetting them. Just maybe we are robbing them of their rites of passage. We are not allowing the children. We run to their rescue because we are afraid of the world outside. And there's another phrase that describes it beautifully.
She's got some very powerful life experience to contribute to the topic, and I found her talk very, very insightful. She's amazing. If you're looking for someone who can talk about intergenerational communication, she is your lady.
It is perfectly legitimate today to look at the alphas as the beginning of a new cycle, a cycle of hope that we can facilitate, and we ought to, we owe it to ourselves.
Thank you. So here's a quick introduction on Neerja, who's a professional speaker, six-time author, TEDx speaker, certified virtual presenter, and an ICF credential coach who has worked with multiple companies, multinational companies, educational institutions, and even the armed forces. She currently serves as the president of the Global Speakers Federation for the year 25-26. My first interaction with Neerja was in 2024, where she gave me an opportunity to MC a part of the PSS at Delhi. I still recollect Esther asked me to reach out to her for a quick screening. And armed forces, which means there would be a Kadak Singh on the other side. But that one call with Neerja totally mellowed me down. She was caring, doting, crisp, sharp. And I don't know, from there things have absolutely changed for me. She's delivered impactful talks nationally, internationally, fostering cross-generation collaborations that turns divide into dynamic teams. There's one thing that I'd like to share about Neerja. I remember at the time when I was comparing at the PSS 2024, and we had one keynote presenter, Oliver Watson Rhythm, who in fact made us dance. And you guys know that Neerja is an excellent dancer. Though me, I've got two left feet and two right feet, I could not keep up with her rhythm. And I still remember that rhythm till date. Okay. So now, in today's global connected world, where speakers are engaging audiences across countries, generations, and cultures, understanding how to communicate with awareness and sensitivity is no longer optional, it is essential. It's understanding cultural intelligence, which is more like CQ, and we'll dive into that really soon. The theme today, stage shock, why your perfect keynote fails abroad. Neerja, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Manny. And I would like to begin with just one statement. I was introduced as the president of the Global Speakers Federation. I'm not president as yet. I'm president elect. The current
Elect.
president is Mike Hancock. Yes, I
Okay,
will
thank
take over from him later this year, but right now I'm the president elect.
lovely. Thanks for that, Neerja. So while let's just delve into this conversation, because it is something that everyone is waiting and looking forward to. So maybe when we speak about cultural intelligence, what is stage shock, and why do strong keynotes fail when they travel abroad? You'd like to just give us an instance on this one?
Certainly. Now, by stage shock, what we mean is stage fright. And do we? We don't. It is not stage fright. It's a cultural misfire. It happens when one of us walks onto an international stage. There is confidence, there is great material, and there is also the keynote, our signature keynotes. By the time we come to the global stage, we have our signature keynotes in place. You have all of this, Manny, and you still feel as you begin to speak that the room is slipping away. And it's not the quality of your content. Every speaker knows how their talk is going. It is not the quality of the content. The problem is that the style that you have used in your domestic speaking
Mhm.
space, at home perhaps, that may begin to feel a little distant. It may be feeling confusing to your listeners, and you begin to get the sense that you have not read the room correctly. And then
mm,
there's some kind of a panic that sets in,
mm, mm, mm,
and you begin to speak faster. You try jokes, or you may push harder for interaction. You start addressing the audience directly and urging them on, asking them questions, asking them to tap or clap or whatever it is you're trying. And
mhm.
you think you're recovering the room, but in reality, the disconnect is widening. That is what we mean by stage shock.
Okay, okay. So it's almost like, you know, at times if you're trying to connect with the audience, and especially when it's a global audience, and when they slip off onto their mobile phones, which means you've not been able to actually get their interest at all, right?
Exactly, exactly. And then you try adding humor, you try
Mm, mm,
movement. Some of us try to get more intense. You might raise your voice, but you're watching them and you're seeing that it's not connecting. It's not
uh,
connecting. That
okay.
is essentially stage shock.
Okay. And now since you spoke about humor, what part of communication is most culturally sensitive? Is it the humor, the storytelling, the body language, the confidence?
Everything, all of this, most important, the the inability with most of us, because we haven't spoken of that enough. It's not up there in our consciousness where it should be. What happens is that we forget that the audiences are not just listening to words, they are
Mm-hmm.
interpreting our behavior also. And what are they interpreting it through? Through the cultural lens. So
Mm,
the same story, the same joke, and the same speaking style, it might seem inspiring in one country, but it might be discomforting in another. And
mm,
remember, the audience is not just judging what we are saying, they're also judging how we are saying it. So, your
mm.
tone,
Yeah.
how you pace yourself, your eye contact, your pauses, all these have different meanings globally, and we haven't yet started to study them closely enough.
Okay.
And
Okay.
we assume,
Mm,
Manny,
mm,
that we are being clear, we have structured our talk,
mm,
everything is flowing beautifully, logically, but are, is it being understood?
mm,
My
mm.
being clear is, it doesn't mean anything if it's not being understood, if it's not
Understood.
landing the way it's supposed to. So clarity and cultural connection, they're not the same
Okay.
thing.
Okay. Okay. Maybe with that, if you can also highlight what are the common cultural mistakes speakers make when they are usually on a global platform?
The biggest mistake we make are not factual, but they are mistakes of assumptions. We assume that silence means boredom. When the
Mm,
audience is very quiet, we assume that they are bored. We assume that humor will work everywhere, not
mm,
necessarily. And we also assume that all English speaking audiences interpret the language in the same way. But
okay.
there are differences. The participation styles are different. When you start speaking in different countries, you realize the nuances, and you pick up these things. And if you want to speak more globally, you really have to make a very conscious effort to acknowledge that this exists, cultural differences, and to appreciate it and to do something about it. For example, the same level of informality, no, it isn't so. Then
Mm,
sometimes we end up relying too heavily on our own metaphors or slang, or references to sports or to films, for instance. We also begin to treat international audience as though they are one category. They're not. Across countries, they differ. And
okay.
Indians, just to take an example, Manny, for example, in let's say you're speaking in Scandinavia, and you
Mm,
say, let's prepone the next session and get a ballpark figure by lunch. Prepone is a word only Indians understand. The whole
mm,
world calls it advanced. This session
Okay.
has been advanced.
Okay. Okay.
Terms like ballpark figure, this some this so careful with the language that we are using so
Ah.
that we don't cause confusion.
Okay. No, I think these are very, very nice tips that you've spoken about the silence and even, checking through and mapping through certain words and terminologies, which we are so used to the lingos,
Yes,
where we need to be
exactly.
a little careful while taking this outside. Now, one thing is, what kind of preps can people do before going to a specific country? Now, since you brought up Scandinavia, okay, so anything that if think if you're going across to Cape Town,
Hmm.
is there something specific that I, as a speaker, would need to actually gauge and check through from that side? Like, what is it that I can uh, try to connect culturally out there? And maybe I'll just give you an
Absolutely.
example. I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
Uh, in the South African culture, when they talk about you guys, I mean, it's not the gents, they refer to you guys as everyone. So the gender is mentioned as guys, so they use
Yes,
that lingo across. So maybe, is there something that needs to be mapped, and what are the things that needs to be checked into first, while if there's a specific country that a person is going to speak at? So maybe some tips
great
from your
question.
side.
Yes, absolutely. This is important. Now, since you mentioned South Africa, I will share an experience I had in Cape Town. I had a speaker say riffraff. They use the term
Hmm.
riffraff to refer to a certain group, and I also happened to be in that group. I took offense. And I
Okay.
clarified it later. I reached out to the speaker and I said, "You use the term riffraff." And they were taken aback because it's not viewed as it is viewed in India.
Hmm.
And had I known, then I would have reacted differently. Now, to your question on what a speaker can do before every international engagement, we are talking about South Africa. But what we can do, believe it or not, in some cases, some associations very proactively reach out and tell you, they give you a sort of a prep, an introduction. For instance, when I spoke at the Dublin Global Speakers Summit, that was in 2022, they sent a video which clearly mentioned these are the topics that are sensitive and there are geopolitical situations. We all know that if tomorrow we were to go to a neighboring country, perhaps we would prepare ourselves to avoid certain sensitive topics. So that happens. But on our own, what can we do? We should reach out and have an honest conversation, Manny, with someone from the audience culture and not just the organizer. And it's not difficult to do that today. You
Hmm.
can connect on LinkedIn. You, as soon as you're speaking at another conference, there is a community that is put together. We create WhatsApp groups. It's very easy to reach out. Organizers will explain logistics, but they may not explain emotional texture or the social
Hmm.
expectations, or there's these hidden sensitivities that some others can do from
Yeah.
the local populace. And the
Hmm.
questions to ask would be, what builds, let's say, credibility here? What turns the audiences off? Or is humor all right? And how interactive should this be? Are there some assumptions that I should be avoiding? There are questions and questions you can just go into,
Hmm.
because one local insight, remember, can completely change
Yeah.
the success of a keynote.
True. True. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. And while we are talking about checking into the countries, I also wanted to touch base on probably the body language. Sometimes eye
Mhm.
contact, silence you've already spoken about, and audience participation changes the meanings across cultures. Probably we might feel that we're doing our best out there, but we don't know whether we've resonated with people in the audience. And specifically when it comes to body gestures, pointing out, eye contact,
Yes.
how does that actually, I'm sure it plays an important role, but maybe if you could highlight and probably just give us an example.
Now you mentioned these behaviors, eye contact,
Mhm.
body language, the way you use the stage. We call it stage choreography. Some of the best speakers, outstanding, brilliant speakers, you see them on these global stages. They don't take a step without a plan. They have it all mapped out.
Mm,
This is how they're going to use the stage. Now, different cultures, they will attach different meanings to all these behaviors. Many of these behaviors cannot be, again, assumed to be neutral. In many Western
mm,
speaking traditions, for instance, if you have a strong eye contact, it signals confidence and credibility. But in some Asian cultures, think India, too much direct eye contact,
mm,
it
mm,
may feel socially heavy,
mm,
even confrontational at times. Now, silence also changes meaning across
mm,
cultures. Some speakers, I think Indian speakers, we do that. We rush to fill silence. It just, I think, I'm generalizing here, but by and large, I find that while in some cases, in some audiences, in some other countries, silence may be interpreted as reflection
mhm,
or thoughtful listening or even respect. You pause, you're talking, and there's silence, and you're comfortable with that silence. And people are thinking, people are absorbing. But in some countries, we'll respond very quickly
yeah,
and
yeah.
openly. That's about participation. In some countries, they will wait to be invited, or some of them may come after the talk for a private engagement. They prefer that kind of interaction. So these are the cultural differences. But I'll give you an example. In one of the conferences I attended,
Mhm,
there was a speaker on the stage, and quite energetic and really very clearly intending to connect deeply with the audience. And they, that speaker asked a question, waited only 2 seconds, and
mhm,
then said, come on, talk to me. And I think the speaker was trying to energize the room.
mhm,
But I think there was a sense, at least I felt that sitting amongst the audience, that the speaker is being impatient.
mm,
And they could have, if they paused a little longer, the audience was on the cusp of responding.
mhm.
So these are the little missteps.
Yeah.
And remember that you only have 30 minutes or 18 minutes in some cases on stage there.
Mm,
And the more prepared you are to connect with your audience, and the clearer you are on what signs to look for,
yeah.
the better your message will land.
Very nice. I think you've clarified on silence, because usually, silence is like, I used to understand like silence, which means either people are bored or they misunderstood or they're not interested. But then if you look at it from another context, you very nicely explained it, that it could be reflection moments, or
Absolutely.
thinking and mulling over that keynote or some information that is imbibed, and taking that in. So I think allowing it to sink in by pausing really
Yeah.
helps out to an extent. So while I'm getting a lot of bulb on moments, so I'm just going to share these bulbs. So you got the small bulb, mid bulb, and the large bulb. When it goes to Neerja, it's always the large bulb. So questions to the audience. I'm sure you guys are sitting down with your notes, or taking down your digital notes, and I've already picked up a lot. If you all have any questions, feel free to put it into the chat. We will pick it up towards the end, and if we have the time, we'll take 2 or 3 questions from you guys. Yeah, so we leave it on over there. So please feel free, and I know everyone is raring to ask for those questions, so feel free to go and chat. We will pick up the initial first three, or whichever one comes across. Great. So while we say speakers could be brilliant at home, but the moment they go to an international stage, it it just doesn't happen. It gets very ineffective. So is it also the cultural aspect, or is it something else that triggers onto this, Nisha?
I think one of the reasons is that we are not preparing ourselves to speak globally. Uh, and what I mean by that is we are overlooking a very important component of speaking abroad, which is cultural intelligence. We are so focused on delivery mechanics. We are not giving enough attention to preparing ourselves for the cultural nuances. That's one reason why we are not perhaps landing as strongly as we deserve to. And remember that most speaker training programs, they they focus on delivery mechanics because that's easier to teach and easier to
Mm-mm.
package, to
Yeah,
measure.
true.
And trainers can build workshops around voice modulation. It happens all the time. We all attended sessions on body language, on stage movement, on the storytelling structure as speakers, on audience engagement techniques. But for a moment, think about cultural intelligence. What does it require? Context. Context is never easy.
Yeah,
Interpretation, again, needs work. Humility, humility, the
yeah,
readiness to accept and acknowledge the difference. And then again, what we call adaptability. That's not a new word, but the ability to quickly make the switch. And
mm,
also to remember that there is no universal formula that works everywhere, Manny. That's what makes it so
mm,
difficult.
mm.
And
True.
but if we only told ourselves and reminded ourselves enough number of times that if I deliver well, yes, it will make me impressive, and I hope that happens. But what do I want to be, effective or impressive? I think every speaker would like their message to. We want change. We want to bring about a difference. That's why we go up
Yep.
on the stage. And when we've spoken at the end of that, has has have our words been effective?
Yeah.
I think that's a test, right? That's a litmus test.
True.
So if we
True.
remember that and constantly reminded ourselves, we do, I think, a better job of
Lovely.
our keynotes abroad.
Great. Great. I think that is one thing that I picked up from there is adaptability. So while we speak about that, how can speakers adapt to different audiences without sounding fake or over rehearsed? Because when you spoke about stagecraft, I think we go more into the mechanics of delivery more than connection. So if there's a balance, what's that balance between authenticity and adoption when speaking abroad?
There's a feeling that you if you adapt yourself too much, then you lose authenticity. But I'd like to correct that because, firstly, let's remind ourselves that it's not necessarily losing your voice. No, adapting doesn't mean losing your authentic voice. It's not dilution. So you're not abandoning your message or your personality or your values. You're only adjusting the delivery so that the audience can receive the message more effectively. What we just spoke of. And
Mm-hmm.
what does adaptation mean? What does adaptability mean? You should ask. It
Mm,
involves changing the examples that you're using, perhaps simplifying your language, uh, minimizing the slang words you might have added there, adjusting your pacing, sarcasm, softening that if that's part of your talk, and finally, most important to me, I try to do that. Use globally relatable references. So, to put it all in a sharp statement, the message stays intact. Only the route changes.
okay. Great. I think you've already given us, some insights on if a speaker is actually speaking globally. What is the research, or what are the steps that one needs to actually use and inculcate before going out? Uh, Maybe I'll ask one question on GSF. What is GSF doing to inculcate cultural sensitivity across the ecosystem?
GSF had a very successful strategy meeting recently at Scottsdale. It was this year, and there this was taken up in a big way. One of the things, one of the projects, one of the initiatives, and what is going on right now is a proposal to anchor a flagship online learning experience, Manny.
Wow.
And I would be doing a disservice if I didn't mention Gijs Hillman of the Netherlands. He's outstanding in this field. He's the one who's helping us anchor that. And the learning experience is being called Speaking Across Cultures. It
Hmm.
is based on field tested frameworks, and it's going to be converted into a reusable toolkit. And
Wow.
who's going to use that toolkit? Associations.
Lovely.
They can deliver it to their own members, and it's not just going to be a one off webinar. What's going to happen is that there'll be an Evergreen Leaders Library resource on the Global Speakers website. Like I said, complete with frameworks, with time tested frameworks, all the tools, the cultural speaker prep sheet. And
Hmm.
these can be adopted by the member associations, and they can activate it in their own local contexts and use it for the benefit of their members.
Lovely, lovely. So this is something which is there on the radar, happening very soon. And actually, you've also answered the next question I was going to ask you. What is the future of this in the long run? And I think you've already shared that across. So that gives a deeper insight that this is now going to percolate across to the associations. And I'm sure that will be like a series of events which will keep happening so that people start building up their cultural intelligence, right? What advice would
Absolutely. Hmm.
Lovely.
Go
What
ahead.
advice would you give speakers who want to build their global speaking career?
First of all, apply to speak, answer the call for speakers. And most important, and that gives you also, it's a self audit, Manny. When
Hmm.
you're filling up a form to speak
Hmm.
at another conference in another country, there are some requirements. They ask you for certain information, and that gives you a good idea of where exactly you stand and what you need to build upon. So I strongly urge every speaker, every aspiring global speaker to start applying and answer as many calls for speakers. They're all there on the website of the Global Speakers Federation. You don't have to go anywhere, it's all there for anyone to fill up. And then invest in
Hmm.
your own career as a speaker. You invest and you go and speak, because remember that these events are peer learning events, so you're funding yourself, you're going there, you're buying a conference ticket. It's a kind of a give back and learning at the same time. It's quite a unique phenomena in the speaking community. And also it comes from the fact that we are a very niche community. There are not
Lovely.
that many professional speakers who are devoting the kind of time that we do to our core subject. We're trying to position ourselves as top of the mind.
Hmm.
Anytime generational diversity is mentioned, I would like to be considered there somewhere. So somebody ought to say, "Oh, I know of this Seenager." You want to be
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
and that calls for investment. So if you want to
Lovely.
grow globally as a speaker, answer the call for speakers, contribute to your own association. That's how you build your circle of trust, that's how you build your visibility, and just work on your core subject. So research,
Hmm.
read content, listen to content, and do all of that, and be ultimately culturally intelligent finally in the final. Yeah.
Super. I think this one question you've answered has given five different ideas. Maybe one more thing that I wanted to check on with you, Neerja. Even I take care of a global expanse of super users. Does language also stand as a barrier in between? Because especially when it comes to Asia Pacific. Recently, we had done some training across Vietnam, and now we are going to start on with China. So, Vietnam, we were facing a problem, yeah, and it became a little disconnected at times. But do you think that language also could stand in the way out here? Because sometimes you might want to pass on a message, and maybe that message is not getting picked up. Either they're not understanding that, or maybe it is not going down the audience well. They're not being able to pick up the cues from them.
The answer to that is it's an evolving situation, and by language, we obviously mean the English language. There is a far greater acceptance of different accents today than ever before, Manny. That's for a fact, because you hear speakers on the global stage, and there is a place for different accents. However, even at the Global Speakers Federation, when we are one of my areas of responsibility is to bring in emerging associations to connect with newer regions, for instance, in Asia or Latin America or the Middle East or the Africas.
Hmm.
And wherever I've gone, such as countries like Brazil and Vietnam, you just mentioned, yes, the issue of language has come up because the
Mm.
proficiency there is not what is a pass muster. However, who knows? Maybe AI is the answer. That's why I say that
Mm.
it's an evolving situation. It's an evolving situation. But I think technology is going to step in there, and also certain associations are running distinct parallel groups. For instance, they have a place for their local language also, and they
Hmm.
have speakers in English language. For instance, the Speaker Association of Spain, of France,
Okay.
the Professional Speaker Association. There are certain countries that are running these um, these parallel sections
Hmm.
where people are speaking in either or both languages, and as long
Okay.
as they find work, uh, the essential ecosystem, the essential skills, the essential competencies are the same in any language, and
Hmm.
it's working. It's working for some associations, and the evolving situation is again technology based, I feel.
Okay. Lovely, great. Now I'm just going to go to the comments out here. I can see there are a lot of comments flowing through. So great. Maybe I'll start with the first one, and this is from Edwin. Edwin Leong from APSS. He says, "Hi Nirja, can you articulate your thoughts and perspective as a Seenager and the GSF president-elect on empowering younger speakers to share and deliver their message?"
How did you know this is my favorite subject? I, I am absolutely really, really fired up about bringing younger voices to our ecosystem, and we are in the thick of it right now. And but only one part of it I can share. The rest is going to be out officially very soon. Things are moving on that front. I really, really do believe that we need to hear the future leaders, and the earlier the better. We people like me at my age, we are not speaking from our immediate experience at times of certain issues. The young are living those issues right now, and on the 13th of June we have our first, when I say first, an informal, it's not a Global Speakers Federation project, it's not any association project, but Praveen Shekhar of the PSAI and I and Sakshar Dugal again of the PSAI, we have gotten together and we have 12 speakers we are fielding on the 13th of June in the first edition of Under 30 Global Speakers. A lot of thought, a lot of hashing, a lot of angsting has gone into it, because what age group to include, and how to bring them together, and all of that. So a lot of work has gone into it, and I absolutely am thrilled that you mentioned this, that younger speakers have to be brought onto the global stage. One is reduce the average age of the of the professional speakers around the world. I'm a contributor to that. And second, just let's hear what these younger people, they, it's a very different world that they're living in today, vastly different. And the generation gap that we see today is the most radical ever. We haven't seen this before. Technology is one of the reasons. Have I answered the question? There was a second part to your question. I think I
Uh,
just got excited about the younger voices and got carried away. Yeah,
no,
that
no.
gets me
So
going.
he's mentioned. So I'll just read it back again. Can you articulate your thoughts and perspectives as a Seenager and the
Mm,
GSF president-elect on empowering younger speakers to share and deliver their message? I think, Neerja, you have covered the entire piece on this one.
thank you.
Thanks, Edwin, for that message. The other one coming up from Baninder saying how to tackle the situation where a speaker insults somebody in the audience.
That's a tricky one, a slippery one. Usually, Baninder, it falls on the organizers on how to handle this, because these events are very time sensitive. There is a schedule that you are trying to stick to, and it's a huge investment. A global, I'm talking about global speaking. When you go to speak at a global conference, you've worked to get selected, then you prepared your keynote, you have paid for your ticket, and you fetch up there. You're all set. There's a video camera rolling. You're trying to leverage it to the maximum. You want your footage, you want your sound bites, you want your testimonials, and all of that. It's a heavy investment deal. And if something like this happens, if somebody in the audience feels insulted, many a times the speaker on the stage is so charged up, because what they are now seeing is their loss. They're losing out in some way, and it's not a situation that you can handle there immediately. So usually the organizer will step in. And this has happened. I've seen this live happen in one of the conferences, and this is something that people have to be prepared for to handle. Maybe there are ways. There are ways. Again depends on where you are, and what what the situation exactly is. Because even insulting, there'll be a differences of opinion even amongst the audience on what constitutes an insult.
Great. Thanks, Maninder, for asking that question. Maybe I'm moving on to the next one by Manish Kumar Solanki. How to improve cultural intelligence or nuances? Can you highlight the resources?
Great question. And the initiative that I just mentioned is trying to do exactly that. One resource you'll very soon have available to you will be on the website of the Global Speakers Federation. And currently, I would recommend that have your antennae quivering to. There are people, there are speakers. I won't say people. We're talking about speakers here. There are speakers today who have done a lot of work on cultural intelligence. So connect with them. We are trying to highlight them through this initiative at the GSF level, and be on the lookout. So I can't rattle off any resources like books and content, but a whole lot of that will be available online. What we are doing is trying to put a program together, an online training together for associations that they can then disseminate to their members.
Great, lovely. Thanks, Neerja, for answering that question. There's another one from Satish Sampath, an interesting one. He says, while we are talking on subjects regarding mental wellness, we have to be careful not to become religious. Yet sometimes we need to touch that to explain cultures. Can you give us tips on how to handle such specific things while maintaining the neutrality or the secularity of the concept? How speakers can remain the same in all stages, yet talk specific to the purpose and audience?
Well, Satish, religion is one of the topics that is in the list of uh, quicksand for speakers. So there are certain topics that we say avoid these topics if you want to be culturally uh, sensitive, because These are polarizing subjects. And I'm trying to imagine a situation where you would feel the need to talk about religion. Um, I would also the only attributes that I would urge would be empathy and humility. A lot of empathy if you're talking, if you feel compelled to talk about a subject such as religion. But if you're speaking in a conference where there are other people and there's an academic discussion, it's all intellectual, and you're going into religions, you're comparing religions. That's a different people are prepared there. They are prepared and they view it from an academic angle. So I don't foresee any problems there. But in our keynotes, when we go out speaking to other countries, in foreign cultures, foreign audience, mixed audience, there I think you have to be really, really careful. A lot depends on what is the context, and what context are you bringing up religion.
Thanks, Neerja. Another last one by Captain Ullas Bordekar, who says, while we talk about ourselves getting prepared
Hmm.
to go out, do overseas speaker prepare adequately to address Indian audiences? So every state has a different culture, and that's a lovely one, Captain Ullas. So anything on that one, Neerja?
Absolutely. When I was preparing for this podcast, Manny, I was telling myself, I was visualizing India. India is how many states, that many continents actually. Each Indian state is like a small continent, different language, different culture. And I was thinking, I said, there's so much diversity here, and we need to sometimes be sensitive when we are going from, let's say, from Punjab to Chennai, or from Chennai to Maharashtra, or from Maharashtra to
True.
some other state, or Ladakh, let's say Ladakh, or to Manipur.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that applies across the globe. And 100% the answer to that question is cultural intelligence is being discussed, is being spoken of globally today. And
Mm.
there is unanimity that this is not a nice to have anymore. It is mandatory, because there are reasons, and I don't need to spell out all the reasons. Look at the state of fracture around us.
Yeah.
Look at how the new generation is coming up. There's so very the expectations are so different. There's while you're speaking, there is people are verifying in live along with you whether what you're saying is accurate or not. Maybe their testimonials or their comments are probably screening right behind you. Who knows on the stage? So this is a time for cultural intelligence and for a lot of empathy and humility. I would say humility. Begin
Mm.
with that.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I think that counts so much when we are getting prepared for this. Great. Now we will move. So thank you to the audience for all those messages out there. We are quickly going to move into the rapid fire round. I'm just going to set my timer for 1 minute. And Neerja, are you ready? So here we go. So
I'm scared.
which audience or country surprised you the most as a speaker?
Dublin.
What's one cultural speaking mistake you made early in your career that taught you a big lesson?
I it wasn't a cultural mistake, but in Spain, I bombed. My talk bombed. I just froze on the stage, man. You have no hesitation in admitting that. And believe you me, there are enough speakers out there, global speakers, let's say in air quotes, who have bombed. So I joined the club of these bombed global speakers in Spain. And the mistake was it was just a 7 minute talk, and I
Mhm.
mucked up my lines. I mucked up my lines because I was so scared of wasting a single second. I ended up wasting the entire 7 minutes.
Okay, we're almost 1 minute
It
up,
was a
but we
speaker,
will go through.
a speaker. It was a speaker mistake, not a cultural mistake, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just quickly run through the questions. As the official Seenager, what's one thing Gen Z's audience are teaching speakers today?
they're teaching speakers to just my they're ripping away their bullshit essentially. Well, that is what Gen Z is doing. Their
Lovely.
antenna for bullshit is very, very sensitive, and they're ripping you
Hmm.
off on your bullshit. They will not listen to your bullshit.
Crisp
Get real.
and to the point. Lovely.
Yes.
Which audience is tougher? Corporate leaders, students, or the armed forces?
Corporate leaders, I think.
Corporate leaders.
There are layers and layers. There are layers.
True, true, true. One word that defines a truly global speaker. One word.
Humble.
Lovely. What's the quickest way for a speaker to lose an international audience?
Anything that comes across as disrespect from the stage.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, the quickest way is to exhibit disrespect on the stage, to radiate disrespect. And it can happen in 101 ways.
Oh, great. If you could give your younger speaker self one piece of advice before your first international talk, what would that be?
Prepare well,
Prepare
prepare
well.
and prepare
Superb.
and prepare and prepare.
Great. As GSF president elect, what excites you the most about the future of global speaking?
The horizon. The horizon is right up there and it is beckoning. It's never been riper the time for the right messages delivered the right way, delivered effectively. We really need those voices. That is what is exciting, and to enable that.
Great. And the final one, what's your favorite? Pizza, burger, tacos, or parantas?
Paratha any
Parantas! I knew
day,
that.
paratha any day,
I knew
preferably
that.
with white butter. Absolutely.
I knew that, and that was just a question which I added across out
I
there.
thought pronta,
So
pronta, pronta, pronta.
lovely, great, great. So we timed out long time back, Neerja. It was almost the fourth question, and we were on 1 minute, but I think it was really, really fabulous, and the spontaneous answers that actually came through was so thoughtful. With, I would say, with golden nuggets. I have taken a lot, though I couldn't type that through, but I think I've imbibed a lot. I'm sure all the audience listening across have definitely been able to get their bulb on moments. So, what is the one message you would want to give every speaker to remember before they walk into an international stage? I know you've spoken about humility, but
Mm.
anything else on a closing note that you would like to add on to it?
One thing is be in the zone, and I hope that you're in the zone. I can't tell you what a fabulous feeling it is when you're prepared and you go onto the stage, and everything just falls into place, and you have everything, you tune out everything, and you really are in the zone. So prepare, because only then will you enter the zone, and just enjoy that. And I wish you more and more such opportunities to be in the zone. May you be in the zone every time you take the mic and speak to the audience. That's my wish
Awesome.
for you.
Awesome, awesome. So great, Nija. It was really, really nice. Time just flew off. Time actually just flew off. I mean, I would
Thank
still
you.
have a couple more, but I know time is short at the moment. So today's conversation reminds us that great speakers is speaking is not just about delivering a message powerfully. It's about making people across cultures feel you see art. And what is UCR? Understood, connected, and respected. I think that
Absolutely.
is the crux
Absolutely.
of this entire conversation. There is much more than this that we all have
Mhm.
imbibed from you, Nirja, and it has really, really been such a nice, enriching moment having this conversation. I'm honored to be here to host this along with you, and thank you for the
Thank you.
golden
Thank you.
nuggets that you shared across. Lovely.
Thank you.
While I end this, I would also like to say thank you to all the audiences. I've seen your lovely comments that have come through. Thank you so much for being a part of this, and for all the people who are not a part of PSCI, feel free to reach out to us. Join the bandwagon. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that I initially started with that first conversation which Neerja had with me, and I think things have changed. It's a 360-degree change. Because of that, I'm handling a global team, and that's where cultures come into play, right? So lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining in. Neerja ji, have a lovely evening.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank you,
much.
team. Thank you, team.
See you.
PSAI Talk Show Global. Thank you. Bye bye.